Lots of you lately started to hire studios out to record drums yourselves, sometimes without the in-house producer or engineer. Now, recording drums is a complicated task and can get tricky really fast. Yet, a great drum recording is what truly defines the sound of your metal track. It gives the thick and real feel to your recording, as well as gives the most of human element to it these days, as we know. Therefore, nailing the recording is absolutely crucial, as there is no other way to learn drum recording rather than doing it, making mistakes and then learning from them. I'm keen to share my process with you all and the main ideas that I've learned over all these years. So these are the drums which we recorded last week with a new band from Melbourne called P1, and the guys kindly allowed me to show some of this in the video, which I'm really grateful for, and I hope that this illustration is helpful for you too. And here is a snippet of one of the sections of the song that we've recorded. Dr. Mike Trubetskov, like and subscribe to let the algorithm push this value to your friends. Let's go! I started recording drums just like anyone would many years ago. No formal training, just hire out a facility and shadow their engineer. Then start to learn the ropes with their supervision on the next project, and so on and so forth until you make enough mistakes to know what to look for during this process. So here is actually what to look for when recording metal drums. Mic choice and mic placement. Now, it's obviously very difficult to cover such a complicated topic of mic placement in this short video. However, you quickly get better at it the more times you record. Here are some general thoughts for you. You can expect each studio that you hire to have certain go-to mics for drums, and they usually would help you place them accordingly as well at the beginning of the session. You can use dynamic mics for kick and snare, dynamic mics or small diaphragm condensers for toms, pencil condensers for overheads, and large diaphragm condensers for room mics. Particularly, Shure Beta 91A for kick-in mic stands out to me in an awesome way for its tight and present kick sound. I also recommend avoiding SM57 on snare top and using other dynamic mics instead, as to me SM57 sounds quite honky and gives quite a bit of cymbal bleed. Unfortunately, there is no simple way of knowing how to position these mics rather than imagining the source of sound projecting from the drum hit and the other drums that would bleed into it, then pointing the mic away from the bleeding elements and most towards the source. For instance, imagine your snare top and your hats interfering with that signal. Also, even a few centimeters in mic positioning change the tone drastically. So, if you are unhappy with the sound of any mic, just move it accordingly. Too dark? Point more towards the source. Like in body, point slightly away, etc. I would also recommend making sure that the overhead mics are set up at an equal distance from the snare drum. Use a wire to measure the distance and adjust it. This keeps your snare-phase relationship in check and provides a fuller overall snare tone, levels and gain staging. And now we come to one of the most important parts of the process, gain staging these mics. Once again, each studio would have its own set of preamps that would behave very differently. Obviously, running these too hot would introduce distortion and ruin your recording, and running these too low would sound weak and introduce some noise floor as well. Therefore, the process that I recommend using is to let your drummer play some parts, solo a single microphone at a time, and then dial in some gain until you get a healthy signal. You can use metering in your DAW or metering on the preamp itself or on the console if metering exists. Find the level where the signal goes into the yellow zone, so a little hot, then dial it back a touch to allow some headroom. Some consoles and microphone combinations require very little gain until the signal starts clipping. You can use the pad function on the preamp or on the mic itself, should you come to this. However, on other occasions, pad function may squash the signal too much. I had that with some tom recordings where bleed and tom levels became very similar because of that. So, you obviously need to be careful. And also, obviously remember to use phantom power for condenser microphones, but not for dynamic ones, and especially not for the ribbon ones, as this can easily damage them. Unless specified otherwise, refer to the manual. If we go through each microphone here and see what sort of tones you may expect when you dial in gains properly, let's do that. Firstly, overheads, because overheads is the overall drum sound. You can hear how overheads are decently tight but still retain a roomy feel, and you can EQ it out with a high pass EQ. Room tones. So quite a typical big room sound which you can blend in the mix to glue the drums together and make them explosive. Some spot mics for hat and ride, nothing fancy here. And then the kick and snare. So the kick inside mic, which I mentioned in the intro. Kick outside, and that's this mic here, by the way. Together. Give nice body and nice thump, and you can see the noise floor here as well. So this is your actual kick, and this is your bleed level, which is a very healthy level, and you can gate it out on the mixing stage then. Now your snare as well. Snare top is Beta 91A, which to me sounds a bit better than 57, and the bottom is SM57 indeed. Toms. These toms sound really full and nice, yet they do have quite a bit of bleed, so we have to be careful about that. And this is due to the fact that we use some small pencil condensers on toms for this session here, which may or may not be of your preference as well. Drum tuning. Now, drum tuning is the aspect that is overlooked the most, and which in my opinion gives the biggest difference in sound, should the other steps in the process be well met. Use tight tunings for old school metal, where speed is important. You can tighten these kicks, snares and toms to not let the sustain introduce flubbiness and ruin the definition of each note. And on the other hand, use lower tunings for kick and snare, specifically for more modern metal style drumming, where groove and bounce and thickness of the tone is in most preference. For more modern sound, for snare tuning specifically, I would suggest to refer to Buster's approach, which sounded the best to us lately when we tried it. And that is, try tuning your snare top skin in C and bottom in A. Obviously, tuning drums is an art in itself, and it also takes the time to understand it, so you have to do some practice. I suggest tuning your snare to the actual note, and you can use drum tuners in order to achieve that properly. Also, make sure that the tension across all the lugs is equal and is within that note as well. Recording process itself. Now, with all of the mics set up and all the levels set and drums tuned properly, you need to let your drummer actually play the parts well. And so, one of the crucial elements for getting good takes is making sure that the drummer can hear both the click and the backing track well as their kit. Otherwise, without hearing themselves properly, things get messy fast. So spending the time to balance that click and instrumental level will pay off for sure. Also, getting that clicky kick sound, either by using an EQ in your DAW or running a kick trigger alongside with a mic, would help the drummer perform kicks much tighter, as otherwise, natural kick sound that lacks definition doesn't really allow for tight performance either. So, once your drummer is comfortable, let them play the song a few times and wrap your head around its structure. Sometimes the full song takes with just a few little punch-ins here and there are great. Other times, going section by section is the approach to take. I recommend you to stay highly focused and take notes alongside with your drummer playing, as otherwise you will push them too hard and they will reach physical fatigue quickly and wouldn't be able to perform what they need to do. Find the beats that you like and take notes. Find the errors and mistakes and put in some suggestions as well. And then put together the best bits of the performance by doing comping, on which I made a full video as well. Check it out. Quickly looking into the comping aspect of things. So Simon was incredibly well prepared for the session, and you can see that this song in particular mainly consists of maybe just a few takes. This main one, the blue one, then the green one, the second take, and then this other take as well, which was the better take for the final part of the song. And that's literally it. But here's the process that you can go through in order to create a best composite take after you've recorded a bunch. So here, for instance, so starting from here maybe. I like how it sounds now, but maybe we could audition some other takes, as we've done 5 or 6. Say this feel here. What other options would we have? That sounds pretty cool. And this one? Sounds tight. And this one? Sounds a bit less tight. Sounds perfect. And that's the take that we used. Next beat. Sometimes it may not be the tightest take, but the energy is the best and the feel is the best. So then you go in and use it and just tighten it up on the edit phase, because the energy is something that you cannot really recreate elsewhere. If we listen to other takes here. This sounds great. This one here. So this one has less energy. This one, neither. And this is the one that we used. It almost sounds like a record in terms of performance, because when tones come together and blend properly, drummer has it in their head and performs accordingly. And it sounds like a finished product straight away. And that's what you are looking for. And you can just feel when things are right. So, without spending too much time on this, I suggest you to go through each section of the song this way and select the beats that feel the best to you. Create a composite, create some crossfades, make sure that these crossfades are accurate and do not introduce artifacts. And that really is it. Do not need to overcomplicate this process. Just make sure it is musical, make sure that your drummer is enjoying and you like the result. That's about it, really. To sum up, recording drums is indeed a complicated task, but the more you do it, the simpler it becomes. And it is funny how little time the actual playing takes, as opposed to setting up the recording for great tones, environment, tuning, gain staging, mics, and all of that. So look, I hope that in this short video I was able to at least help you understand how this process looks, and when you do hit the studio next time and when you do aim to record drums and engineer them yourselves without this much of an experience, you know what to expect, you know what to focus on, and if you do, and at least if you consult with the engineer and look through those ideas, I'm sure you'll be well set to achieve good tones. So, until next time, cheers!